but I think coming back to your question then about the whole UFO abduction, the whole incubi, succubi, all of those kind of things along the way. I think, you arrive at a point of saying, well, does it talk like a duck? Does it walk like a duck? And if it does all of those things, well, is it a duck? And so if you have beings that seem to appear and want, it seems to me from my reading of the literature that apart from the very positive ones that seem to happen from time to time, there are three things wanted within the abduction literature all of the time. Physical material from the people they're abducting, and they take things, okay? Fear and shock, which is what they seem to want to generate. Because if these creatures are as powerful as they seem to be, or they say they are, then why don't they disguise themselves perfectly? If they have the power to make illusion, of illusion, of glamour, shall we say, as much as they seem to have, if they have that power, why do they startle and fear and make people upset and worried and all of that, And the third thing is a very unhealthy obsession with human reproduction. So those three things traditionally were always seen as belonging to the element, well, not the element, but the fairy kingdom in particular. That's what every fairy story has that. It's the idea of there's stuff humans have that we want. And by the way, the reason you put milk out for the fairies is to stop them taking blood. The whole thing was, well, give me a liquid that has life in it. That was the whole thing, because I don't have life. You have life. So I'll take blood if I can get it, but if I can't take blood, well, I'll take milk. And the same is true for the other, human fluids. And very often in folklore, you've got to read between the lines. So when people would be making offerings of milk, etc., it might have been other fluids that were being offered. Yeah. Just couldn't say it in the kind of in the stories, The same is true for the shock and fear, and the glamour is never perfect. It's always, well, we can appear to some extent, but there'll always be a moment where you realize, or there's a moment where we have to reveal ourselves, or a moment of shock. And then the third thing is this human reproduction end of things, which is we can't reproduce the way it's very difficult. It's very hard for us to reproduce. So we have to take humans into our world to try and help us and assist us. I am not saying it's a one for one, but I am comes very, very close to anybody who's reading or anybody who's looking around. Now you can, and as I say, the logic works both ways. You can say, oh, those people hundreds of years ago met aliens, they just called them fairies. But we have to be able to say, well, those people who are meeting aliens, perhaps they're actually meeting fairies.